bringing the people behind our food to life.
This is a forging shop, so what it means is that I heat steel and then I manipulate it. So the reason I heat it is to make it soft. You heat it up, it gets to a certain temperature, it's fairly pliable, and then you can manipulate it. You can hammer it, you can bend it, twist it, cut it, split it. I think first time I forged, I was introduced to a smith, an old blacksmith in Jerusalem when I lived there. He was the last surviving smith there. And I think from the moment I saw a smithy and smelled the smell of coal, I was completely hooked. There was just nothing like it. To become a competent smith, whatever your area of expertise might be, you have to internalize a lot of information. You have to understand really the mechanics of working steel and heat treating steel and all that sort of thing. But you also have to have some sort of visceral understanding, instinctual almost, how steel behaves as you shape it.
The nature of this craft is such that you stand around for sometimes a fairly long time just staring into your forge. You know, it's heating up, not much to do. It's time to, you know, plan what you're going to do or think deep thoughts. And then once you start moving, you move very fast because steel cools off rapidly.
You don't have much time to shape a hot piece of steel before it's cold again. The feedback that you get in your action has to be very fast. They say in martial arts that to master any kind of movement or technique, you have to do it at least 2,000 times. So what it comes down to is basically you have to have good powers of observation, and you have to be, you know, not afraid of really hard work. You have to love it. To be willing to do a lot of it and make a lot of mistakes before it becomes a part of who you are. I used to do big architectural steelwork, and I fairly burned out on that. And knives is something that I trained to make in Japan, and I always like cooking, and I always like good kitchen knives. What is a good kitchen knife? Well, it depends on, of course, on how the user will define it. My definition is actually taken from a very famous Japanese swordsmith, contemporary smith, Yoshindo Yoshihara, and he says a Japanese sword is beautiful because it is sharp. So basically form follows function. Making an axe and making a knife are fundamentally very similar. The techniques perhaps are different because it's a different tool. But basically it's a tool that has to perform well and has to look good. You try to make the best tool you can, and you try to think it through. You try to imagine the, you know, the user. You know, how it will be used, how it will perform, what is it they require. And you try to come through for them. I think the biggest growth potential for smithing is if people recognize that it's not a dying art at all. Because that's often what I hear. Oh, you're a smith, it's a dying art. But actually it's not a dying art. I think I mentioned before, there's a whole lot more smiths nowadays than there used to be 30 years ago. And a lot of these smiths are, you know, very dedicated and very talented people who come up with completely amazing stuff, you know, like the knives that I make, for example, or, you know, knives that some other people make as well. These are the knives that, you know, you will reach for naturally, and this is the knives that your kids will be using, you know, because they will just perform and perform and perform, and they will feel good. So I think this is the probably the biggest potential for the smiths, is to be recognized as a valid way of making stuff. So I'm looking forward to continue developing more, interesting shapes and interesting functions. I think in this sense I fit right in, and I will never exhaust this field. Like the knives that I make, for example, or knives that some other people make as well. These are the knives that you will reach for naturally, and this is the knives that your kids will be using, because they will just perform and perform and perform, and they will feel good.